Hello, teachers. This is a video to help make sure you know where all the important things are on homeschool life. Things that you can use with your classes or just things in general. So the first thing I need to do is log in. And I'm the type of person who has my passwords save themselves, and that works really well for the most part, but I was making a different video and somehow managed to screw up my login. So I had to go through the process of forgot username, forgot password. And so I'll show you what those prompts are. When you say forgot username, it asks you for the email address you used when first registering. So that's the email address that you're getting like forum emails from and things like that. That's the email you'd put. Then it emails you your username, and so then once you've got that, you go to forgot password, put in your username, and then click reset password. Then it'll send you an email with a temporary password so that you can log in. And once you log in, it may take you to the edit profile page automatically, or it might not, I'm not sure. But if it doesn't, you'd want to come to profile, and you would want to change your password down here. And while we're on the profile screen, I just want to point out a couple of things. Make sure your username is something that you'll remember. That's super helpful. So I use my connectionsnw.org email address. For your primary email, if I understand it correctly, if you are a parent and an instructor, you might be more likely to want to put in your personal email than your connections one. If you want emails about your student to go to a personal email account, then that would be where you'd put a personal email instead of a connections one. But if you're wanting to basically funnel all connections communications into a different location, you could use your connections account. And it occurs to me that, so I see a lot of people have spouses entered in for the secondary information, but I would imagine that I could put a personal email address in here as well. And if I have yes selected for additional email addresses will also receive weekly email and forum notifications, then in theory, I would get the email sent to my connections address and my personal address. So those of you who are parents, that's something to think about. While you're on your profile page, scroll through, make sure everything's up to date, and update if necessary. So if we go back to home, what we see is I have no registrations because I don't have a child. I assume that's where that would show up. I can see forums, classifieds, calendar, but there's not any events. So what would be more helpful to go to is the classes tab. And if you're an instructor, it will default you to the instructor dashboard. If you're a parent, you come over here, right, and you switch to parent view so that you can see your kiddos. Or if you're a parent, you'd also see the name of your students so that you could select those as well. Now, since school hasn't started yet, my classes for the coming year are in future classes. And so I pressed that plus so that I can see all of them. So because I have not yet done anything with my class, because school hasn't started yet, we're not seeing anything here. So what I would like to do is actually go to one of my classes to show you what all we can do with that. So I'm going to pick geometry. So when I go to a class page, first off, if you realize you want to switch to a different class, the easiest way to do that is to use this drop down because it saves you from having to go back to that page we were just on. One of the most important things probably for you to know about is your class roster. And your class roster gives you information about parents, students, age, grade, email addresses, and it also makes it really easy for you to email the class. And so you might notice if you look at your roster, depending on how old the kids you're teaching are, that if they have an email address in, is probably a personal email address as opposed to a connections one. And that's fine because we want emails to go to where they're most likely to check it. So if you want to email all of your parents at once because you have something really important you want to say to them, you can check this, which check marks all of the people in your class, and then come down to the bottom and click email parents. And then it takes you to a screen where you're essentially writing an email just inside of Homeschool Life. And notice here it says reply to email address and email also too. So if you have a personal email account as your primary email address, it's going to have that right here. And so when parents reply to your message, you're going to get that message on your personal email. And so that might be fine for you. Maybe that's where you want it to be. Or maybe you want it to go to the connections email. You would need to change this to your connections email every time. And this one, I don't know how much I like this, but it emails also to whatever my email address is so that I end up being able to see whatever it is I've just messaged. You need a subject, put something in the body. There's ways that you can attach things down here at the bottom. You can choose file from your computer. You can add more attachments. So if you have like 3 things you're wanting to attach, you can do that. And it has all the kind of different editing things that you would find in most Word document or email systems. I don't really want to email my parents yet because a lot of them I had last year, but not all of them. So I might weird them out if I email them. So that's if you want to email the parents. If you want to instead email class, now it's going to create a forum thread in my class. And so what it does when I do this is it makes a post in the class forum, and it also sends this out to, I believe, parents and students. So keep that in mind, that if you're emailing the whole class, that everybody can see it. So if you've used email class, it will show up here under threads in your class forum. I think that's helpful because not only did it email everybody so that they saw it, hopefully, whenever they check their email, but also if they need to look back at things that you've posted, like if you're posting resources or things like that, then they can come to this class page and look at the threads and hopefully find the material they need pretty easily. So that was class roster and how to communicate with parents and students. If you're wanting to only email one parent, you would only check that one and then you can email parent. Or you can always copy and paste email addresses into whatever email service you use so that you can email individually. So my class description is here. And underneath that is announcements. Now, I did not even notice this box last year, but what I've been told is that if you post an announcement, it's going to stay up here at the top. It does not email out the announcement. So think very carefully about why you may or may not want to put an announcement here. Like I could put an announcement and say, school's almost here. Excited to see everyone. This box shows up for me like all the time, and I don't feel like anything different happens whether I press OK or cancel. So if you're having that same issue, like look, these look exactly the same to me, so it's very confusing. I just want you to go away. Hopefully I didn't screw anything up there. So I have this announcement here. It does say email announcements. And so it will go ahead and email this announcement to students, parents, and instructors. So you can email out an announcement. Just know that it doesn't go out automatically. You have an extra step you have to do there. Now, Homeschool Life actually does a lot of the things that Teams does. I personally feel like Teams does these things better, that it looks nicer. I think for our students, it is easier to navigate. But you still might decide, for whatever reason, to go ahead and use Homeschool Life. And I actually used it last year because, our starting of Teams kind of got off to a bit of a late start. And so I'd already been posting resources so parents could see them. So I went ahead and I kept doing that for at least some of the year. I actually would put them in a thread. I would add a thread for like week 1, here's the resources. So that's an option. The thing that Teams doesn't do, which is frustrating, is it doesn't calculate grades for you. Homeschool Life will calculate grades for you. And so to do that, you would come over here, you would come over here to grades, and then you'll have to change your grade settings and set everything up. So this is our description. There, grading. So you can choose what grading scale so be careful with this mark final as of. If you put in a date and that date happens, it locks up your class grades. So I did that last year at the end of the year, but not whenever I had all the grades finalized. And so it kind of broke what I was doing. I recommend not putting a date for now. And then if you have your grades final at the end of the year, you can go ahead and put a date to mark them as final. What this does is when you open up a grade report for a student to maybe send to parents, it will say this is not final across it unless you've done mark final as of. So there you go. But there's other things that we also need to look at. So I'll go ahead and change this to % only. Yeah, we'll go with 1 decimal. And then we're going to save changes. Oh, because I switched this, now it says, hey, do you want equal weighting for everything? Or do you want to weight your categories differently? Now, I personally weight categories differently. So I might make tests be 50%, quizzes be 30%, and homework be 20%. And so I think it will let you know if you haven't entered in enough to go up to 100%. I'm going to save changes. And now it's taking me back here. But when I go to grades, it shows me a summary of my grades. So one thing I want to comment on the weighting is that, so let's say you have all your homework entered in and you have everything worth 5 points. And then you have something else, like except for one thing that you put in as worth 50 points. What it's going to do is it's going to add up all those points and then apply the weighting to it. For most of you, I would imagine that might be fine. If you made it 50 points because you wanted it to impact their grade more, then that's great. It's doing that. I, on the other hand, will sometimes change how many points something is worth to make it easier for me to grade. So I might use 5 for normal homework assignments, but then use 10 for something that I feel like it's easier to grade if I can give them, 0 through 10 instead of 0 through 5. Homeschool Life does not calculate it the way I would want it to, where I actually want the 10 and the 5 to be the same weight. Like I said, most of you probably doesn't matter, but just throwing it out there, that's how it calculates it, is it adds up the points and uses that total points. All right, let's say that I want to add assignments to Homeschool Life because I want to keep track of grades. So what I did last year that worked fairly well is I did assignments and things on Teams, but then I also added assignments here and put in the grades, kind of like just an online grade book, so that I could get a calculated grade. I'm not going to do that this year because of realizing that Homeschool Life doesn't calculate it the way I want to. I am using a spreadsheet because I like spreadsheets. And if you are interested in figuring out how to use a spreadsheet for grading, then, let me know. If we want to create an assignment, we go to Add Assignment, and it's got pretty standard things. We need to name the assignment. You can hide it from students until a certain date. So if you have like a big and also maybe fun project, like that has a fun name that you don't want them to see until it's time to actually talk about it, you can hide it from them. You can describe the assignment if you'd like. Since I was using Teams to turn things in, I didn't usually do much of a description. For category, you can say, oh, I want to use one of these categories that I've weighted, or I can use one of these others. I don't know if it likes that or not. Possible points, due date. You can have students upload things to Homeschool Live to turn in, just like you can have kids upload things to Teams to turn in. So if that's the case and you want to do a deadline, you could go ahead and put a deadline. Now, that being said, it should tell you a time that they uploaded it, I would imagine. And so I personally don't put deadline dates on assignments because I'd rather them turn it in late than not at all. So that's something to think about. I am going to create an assignment. Thanks for being in my class. I guess I might as well hide it until September 8th. I'm going to put it in homework. I'm going to say points possible is 5. It's due on the 8th as well. And what I need to do down here is make sure to save. Now I created this assignment so that I can show you like what can we do with assignments once they're in here. If I click on this assignment, it brings up all my students, and what I can do is I can put in grades for them. And so however you're grading things, Teams, Homeschool Life, if you're collecting things and then inputting grades, you just go down your list, which is in alphabetical order by last name, and you would go ahead and put that in, whatever score it is. You can mark what date you received it if you'd like. Which would be maybe helpful if you had somebody turn in something late, so you have a record of that. You can actually change the status. If I put in a number here, it defaults to completed on time. But if I wanted to change that to completed late or incomplete or missing, then I can. So if I put in a 0, I would likely put in an incomplete here. And it's just something that shows up on the student and parent end so that they can see a little more detail. But the other thing, so it will show you student uploads and comments. And we can upload things if we want. So if we accepted something and then we edited it or graded it or gave feedback on that paper, you could upload it here. What I liked to use last year that really got things returned to me was the feedback button, because whatever you put here, it then emails to you, the student, and the parents whenever I click save. And I'm going to be honest, that's kind of annoying in some ways because like if you put feedback and then change your mind and you've already saved, like it will send a new email. And I'm not sure how much context it really gives in the email. It didn't seem like it gave a ton. So that is, though, a way that you can just quickly email parents about an assignment and students about an assignment. And once I'm done, I will need to save changes. I don't know who I want to. I'm going to pick on somebody. I'm going to pick on Teague. So another annoying thing is when you put this in and then either press tab or click somewhere else, it does this weird little page reload thing. So if you're used to like Excel where if you press enter it goes down to the next line, that does not happen here. So I've given Teague a 0. I'm going to say, hey, I'm missing this. So you might think, well, why wouldn't I just leave it blank if it's missing? And that's a personal choice. If I put in a 0 and say it's missing, then I'm making sure that it's calculated as 0 out of 5 points in the grade makeup. Maybe it does that just whenever it says missing. Maybe it doesn't. And also, by the way, whenever you don't have a number in, you can actually change it to excused or missing, or leave it as ungraded. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Teague. He got a 0 because he's missing it. I'm going to save changes so that I can kind of show you what the grades look like. So here, it will tell me how many are ungraded if I need to see that, and average points received for the class. If I want to look at the grades now, I'd go to grades and reports, and Teague has 1 of 1 assignments graded, 1 assignment missing, and his current grade is 0. And so I can put some comments on that. I can download the report, or I can just directly email the report. If I click email, does it just email? It's just going to immediately email. Okay. If I open up the grade report, see it says not final across it. And that's going to be true unless you mark your grades as final, which you can't undo. So don't do it. Don't do it. But it will show you your grades and all of that here. If you have things in different categories, it will put like the category averages as well as the overall grade. The other thing that I'm not real happy with homeschool life is that I couldn't figure out how to make it semesters. So 1 grade for first semester, 1 grade for second semester. So keep that in mind. If you figure out how to do it, let me know. But that's the idea there. I'm going to go ahead and take Teague's 0 out so I don't forget. And I just want to delete this. If you have any grades entered, it won't let you delete an assignment. So you'll have to actually take those out before you press delete. I believe that's all that I have to show you. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. If you do, you can email help.teams@connectionsnw.org, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.